So we'll start with some introductions, and then we'll launch in with meeting in our alumni, and then open it up to the Q&A. So we'll start with the doctoral school, because it's very nice to have most of us on here today. And we'll start with Vasily. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, good day to you all. I'm Vasily Joannitestolotour. I'm the director of the doctoral school, working at GEM of 14 years. So I understand pretty well how the school is going and how this program is going. And I'm very happy to be here with you tonight or this morning for those of you who are on the other side of the ocean.
Thank you. And Dima.
Hello, everyone. So I'm Dima Lewis. I'm the academic director of the DBA France program, but I'm also a DBA alumni myself. So I got my DBA from Grenoble École de Management back in 2015. So I know the program really well, both as a previous student in the program and now as the academic director. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have. So even after the call today, don't hesitate to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thanks. Marielle, are you on the call today?
Yes,
Hello.
so very happy to be here. I'm the academic director of the US cohorts since 1 year now. Very exciting job, much enjoy it. I actually converted to academia 3 years ago and realized that I should have made that career change earlier in my career. So that's what I want to say. I see some of my students and in the list. So well, welcome to everybody.
Thank you. And I am Ginny Hinderscheid. I do the marketing and admissions for the doctoral school. So if you have any questions about the application process, about the program, I will be your first contact to help you with that. I'd like to introduce Professor Michelle Mealy.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Oh, good. Okay, good. Hi, everybody. It's a pleasure to be with you and to be with my awesome colleagues of the doctoral school. We really enjoy our jobs. We love to, as researchers, bring other people into the fold and share the joy. Yeah, the hard parts are there, but the good parts are numerous. And super excited to hear about our alumni today and share with you some of their incredible successes.
I think Jeff wasn't able to join us today, but this is some of the doctoral school team members that are here to support you during your doctoral journey. Well, without further ado, we are going to introduce 3 of our alumni here. So we'll welcome Dr. Ben Powers, Dr. Isabel Shakirand, and Dr. Jim Pocrano. So we'll start with Ben. Ben, could you tell us a little bit about yourself? I guess we have some information here about you, but tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's great. It's always great to be at a GEM event. What I will start by saying is that GEM has been absolutely transformational in my life. The experience going through the DBA program really shifted my entire career, but also my personal life, just in terms of how I think through things and how I approach problem solving and just kind of every single aspect of my life. It just was a really incredible journey. So I have a background in working in management of schools. So I've run several independent schools in the United States. And so while some of that background certainly is rooted in education and education practice, a lot of what I needed to gain a better handle on was the business world. And so I went for an MBA I guess about 12 years ago. And then as I got to the end of that MBA program, I realized that it would be important for me to have some sort of terminal degree. So when I started this whole process of thinking about a DBA or thinking about doing a doctoral degree, it came from the lens of really just thinking I needed to check a box that, that was the next stage in my educational journey, and also to kind of validate my career aspirations and my leadership, the ability to hold leadership positions in different organizations. So I came at it really from that lens of of wanting that really kind of the degree. I certainly was interested in studying. I mean, I enjoyed my MBA program and certainly wanted to continue my own learning outcomes, but that was really where I came at this whole DBA journey. And what I realized through the process was that it was just so much more enriching than that. So when I started the DBA process, I was really trying to figure out, you know, where I could make my contribution, how I could think about the you know, the wall of knowledge, the brick that I could try to help put in that wall of knowledge. And what I ended up studying was investigating was looking at the different kind of personal level variables, the different components of individual students and their entrepreneurial self-efficacy and their entrepreneurial intention. And I specifically work with students with dyslexia and ADHD. So that was the population of students that I looked at. I had a very large sample of over 1,000 students, adolescents in the United States across both independent and public schools in mostly in the northeast part of the United States. But as I went through that process, you know, again, when I came at it originally, it was to check this box. And what I realized going through the whole DBA process, and this is where I think GEM is just such a significant resource, it really helped me understand how to critically evaluate research, information, how to really be an informed consumer of research, how to take apart a research paper, understand, you know, what are the underlying questions, what are the research methodologies, what's the research design, and is that valid? Is the data valid? Is it are the findings valid? And really take that, process it, and then figure out how to build on it, and then make my own contribution. But I think a substantial difference with the DBA is that you're really doing it from the perspective of being in the field. You know, there's a managerial contribution that is so critical. And what that means is that you're really trying to provide not just building on the research base and adding to that brick of knowledge from a research perspective, but also from a management perspective. And so what that shifted for me professionally today is really being in a place where I can help translate research for people who are not academics, who are not people with terminal degrees, help them understand, evaluate research, but also figure out how can we take that research, how can we take that new knowledge and translate it into practices that we're using, whether it's in management science or other aspects of the types of work or projects that I either lead or help support other people in. And again, it's just really been transformational. And in terms of my own career outcomes, at the time I started the DBA, I was running a fairly small organization, and I was very happy there. But after getting my DBA, after earning my DBA, I now run actually 3 different organizations. I run a much larger organization day to day that's a much more significantly sized budget and a larger impact in terms of the work that we do. I also now have an appointment at Yale University. I actually run it's not a center at Yale, but it's part of the Yale Child Studies Center. It's called the Global Literacy Hub. And it's just an amazing opportunity to lead a group of both researchers or scientists who are doing kind of basic research, and then also people who are looking for that translational piece of how to help take that research and translate it into practice. And so that's been just a really big opportunity for me to be working with just some of the best people really in the world. It's just really just been a huge honor and something I just take a lot of joy in. And then I also run another organization that really is focused on social impact and helping advance people and individuals in places where they might not have resources or access to the kinds of resources they need to be successful. And so, again, the DBA just really has had a tremendous impact on me, but professionally, but again, even in my personal life, thinking through, how I consider information, how I consider, day to day, just even living my life, it's really just been absolutely transformational. And I'm really grateful for the people at GEM who helped champion me through that, through the doctoral process and helped me graduate in 2017. And it's really just been, you know, an ever-evolving journey since then.
Okay, I'd like to now invite Isabel, please.
Hello, Ginny. How are you?
Hi. All right. Is that okay? Can we see you? All right.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's me.
Hello. Thank you.
Hello. Well, just to make a short introduction, to make a long story short, basically I spent the last 20 years of my life with two hats in my head. I share my life between the corporate world and the academic world. So nowadays I'm dean of the business school of the Catholic University in Uruguay, which is the main private university here in Uruguay. And I'm also a member of the board of different companies, manufacturing companies, and as you can read there, I'm a member of the board of the HSBC Bank in Uruguay. So I'm still sharing my life between those two worlds, which is an amazing opportunity to make that dialogue Ben was mentioning between the academic world, the research world, and reality. The real, I mean, the corporate world, the entrepreneurial world. And well, all this journey of the DBA started in I think like 10 years ago. I was a professor when I finished my MBA here in Uruguay. I did my degree and my MBA here in Uruguay because I got married pretty young and I was raising my kids. So I stayed here at home to do my I am public accountant, and then I did my MBA. But I was always dreaming on studying abroad, especially in France, where I have family living there. So I was always with that dream in my head. And when I finished the MBA, the university where I studied invited me to start teaching as a professor in the entrepreneurship course. So I loved the idea of teaching, and I started there first as a part-time professor, then as a full-time professor. And the university asked me to do a doctoral program. So I didn't have a full idea what a doctoral program was. Of course, I knew it was what a PhD was. I didn't know a lot what a DBA meant, but doing research, I discovered the idea of the DBA. I loved this idea from, thinking on my profile, on my age. I considered it was a much interesting idea than the PhD. And then I discovered the Grenoble program. And considering the innovation profile and the entrepreneur profile, I thought it was the best option for me. And of course, it was close to my family in France. So I started the DBA not having a full idea of what the doctoral program was about. And so since the expectation was not really clear, the reality really surprised me a lot. So I started it more like something that the university was asking me to do. I loved the idea. I always loved studying, and I'm curious by nature. So it was, something that sounded okay. But it was an absolutely life-changing experience for me. It sounds like really advertisement what I'm saying, but it was really a life-changing experience. I loved my DBA. It was painful. It was hard. I had to work a lot. I have 3 kids, so I was like with my 2 jobs, my 3 kids, my husband, and all that. It was messy, absolutely messy and hard to deal with, but it was absolutely amazing. I discovered a full world of research of the managerial implications of what Ben was mentioning, that wonderful wall of knowledge, and where which was the brick I could the brick I could feel on that wall. It was like, for me, it was amazing to read so much about all the research other people was doing in the field I was studying. And I love to be between brilliant minds. So the research world is a perfect place to be in. And it was not only the professional side, but also in the personal perspective. It was, I mean, for me, it was amazing. I told you I didn't have the experience to study abroad in my MBA and in my undergraduate program. So to have the opportunity to know people from all over the world. Nowadays, one of the I have an adorable friend I have is from the from the DBA at Grenoble. She lives in Lebanon. Of course, our WhatsApp are always in delay because of the difference of the time difference. But she's a great friend I have in the other part of the world. And I think I talk more with her than with my sisters that are 2 blocks from home. But just to have the opportunity to know people from all over the world, to discover different realities from their research topics, to know that there are countries absolutely different than mine or from the societies I am used to. It was amazing for me even in the personal perspective. And it was absolutely challenging to balance my work, the doctorate program and my personal life. But since I have family and friends, I had the opportunity to each seminar to bring one of my kids with me to France, and they stayed with my family. So it was also a family experience to travel and to balance all these aspects of my life. And of course, after the DBA, I received a couple of months later, I received the offer to become Dean of the Business School of the university where I'm now in. And of course, it was a really big step in my professional career. And it was thanks to my DBA, of course. If not, this opportunity will have never arrived. So I'm absolutely thankful for that. And I had the challenge that I finished my DBA on April 2020, just after all the frontiers were closed. So I was one of the first theses that was defended via Zoom. So I after 5 years of dealing with my doctoral thesis, I didn't expect it to defend it on sleepers, but well, that happened, but it was even in those conditions, it was a really special moment in my life. And as I'm still expecting to come back to Grenoble to make a personal closure, in life closure of my DBA. I will do it, I hope, soon. But to make to make this a long story short, which hasn't been so short, I've been talking for a while, but it was an absolutely changing experience for me in the personal and professional point of view.
Well, thank you so much, Isabel, for sharing this. You are really an inspirational story. I mean, going from becoming dean of a business school, and a prominent speaker in your community, it's really definitely a DBA success story. And we'd love to have you back in Grenoble to celebrate with you. We were just able to have a graduation ceremony for the 100 people that have graduated in the last 3 years that couldn't travel because of COVID. And of course, not everyone could come, but it was really nice to be able to mark the occasion and to celebrate all these amazing successes. So thank you for sharing your story. I'm sure everyone here will have some interesting questions for you as well. It's pretty amazing. So thank you.
Yeah, I'm not sure where to start. The previous two have done a very good job of explaining how this changes one's life. I'm an engineer by training who realized at some point that I was not an amazing engineer from a technology point of view. And what does one do at that point? Well, you go and get an MBA, which is what I did. So many years ago, I did my MBA here in Switzerland, which is where I live now. And what I discovered is that I really enjoyed learning, which was not the case when I finished my bachelor's. I remember my father suggesting doing a master's right after my bachelor's, and I said, the last thing I want to do is go back to school. I wanted to get out and work. But then during the MBA, I discovered I really do enjoy this. I mean, taking on stuff that I don't understand and then learning. I also discovered at that point that I preferred working in smaller companies because I'd worked for a large French multinational beforehand. And I always wondered, is it because it was a multinational or is it because it was a French company? But in any case, that's where I learned that I prefer to work with smaller companies in kind of high impact situations, startups, etc. Worked for a startup in Geneva for 5 years. And then at one point, IMD, which is where I got my MBA, asked me to come back as part of the turnaround team at the school. And they sold it to me based on every manager has to have one turnaround under his belt. And this will be just like a startup for you, so I did. We were successful. But then at a certain point, I was planning to leave because I did my job. We were turned around. We were on the path of success. And I decided it was time to move on. But then I was asked to join our executive MBA program, which was completely new. It was the first real innovation at the school since 1972. And precisely because of my entrepreneurial background, they wanted me as part of the founding team. And this is where I started teaching. And I have to say, I never thought about getting a doctorate. That was never, at least I didn't think I'd ever thought about it. But one day, there was an article in the newspaper about Grenoble, and my wife saw me reading it, and she's looking over my shoulder, and she says, "You've always wanted to do this. Just go and do it." And it was funny because I never thought about the fact that I wanted to do it, at least, again, not explicitly. And so I did investigate other schools, but I was no longer a 25-year-old who could just do a PhD full time, and eventually decided that Grenoble was the best place for me. And part of it was because of the advisor that I was given. He and I were both mature, and I felt that he could understand my situation. And yeah, I mean, and it worked. I mean, my dissertation was on a topic that I knew a lot about and was part of my teaching, but I didn't really have a strong foundation for it. And so the research gave me the chance to build that foundation. And one of the things that hit me, and maybe this will be a surprise, and I don't know if any of the other alumni had this, but I thought that the target of my dissertation, my research question, was the most important thing in the world. I can remember one time driving home from a visit with my advisor, and something, a light bulb goes on over my head where I realized nobody actually cares about my dissertation, about my subject. What they care about is that I learned to do great research. And I have to say, that was actually really that could have been a depressing moment, but it was actually the opposite. It was a motivating moment because I said, if I can master this, this is a skill set I will have for the rest of my life. Whether people pay me for it or not, that's a whole different question. But I realized I can do, if I have a question, a problem, or a challenge, I know how to do the research which will find an answer. So I finished my dissertation mid-2012. At that point, again, I'm not a good person for career planning. I had no intentions of using my DBA for anything. It was just, okay, I wanted a big challenge. I got the challenge. I accomplished the challenge. Done. But then there was a lot of things came together. We had a new president at our school. I was still working at the school, both teaching, but also heavily involved in business development. And I remember talking to him, and he and I are the same age, and him saying, from a career development point of view, the only other job left for you is my job. And I just took that job. So what are you going to do? I mean, and it just hit me that if I stayed, I would be doing exactly the same thing for the next 10, 15, whatever years. And so I quit. Literally, I mean, it took me 6 months to work things out. And what I ended up saying is I want to be an independent professor and consultant. I was very lucky. The school, IMD in Lausanne, I mean, right away, they filled up 50% of my teaching load. So money wasn't an issue. And then 2 other schools invited me to teach, one in Russia, one in Boston. And it's just continued ever since then. I mean, I'm still heavily linked to IMD. I'm what they call an adjunct professor, which basically means I'm on contract, but I'm considered full-time equivalent of anybody else at IMD. IMD is still probably 50 or 60% of my teaching workload. And then the rest of it is external corporations, startups. You know, I'm happy I did the doctorate. I'm very happy that I did. But did I say to myself, I want to do a doctorate one day? No. You know, it fell into place at the right time. I mean, I started the DBA when I was in my early 50s, and I did it in parallel to a full-time job. And I remember when I first announced that I was going to do this, it was actually, again, we were going through another reorganization at the school, and I was asked, you know, if I could really give myself 120% to the school. And I said, yeah, but I just want you to know, I'm going to do my doctorate in parallel. And of course, their assumption was I would want them to pay for it or support me in some way. And I said, no, I want this for me. I don't want you to pay for it or anything else, because then I'll feel tied to you. And that was a very good decision. So today, I spend all of my time teaching and consulting. The topic I did my dissertation on does come up on a regular basis. I just finished a whole new video series for IMD on networks and networking. But it's, you know, allowed me to make sure I really understand all the other areas I work in: strategy, leadership, customer centricity. I don't go in there just having read the headlines in the Financial Times. I actually, thanks to the DBA, actually understand what I'm talking about. So that's my story.
And you know what? We have a few more alumni on this call. Frank, yeah, great. Thanks. Amenabia, if you want to jump on too. And any other alumni who were able to join us today. It was very nice because we were able to invite current students, prospective students, and other alumni. And it's really nice to have you all here. And I think it's great to kind of bring the community together and hear everyone's stories. So we'll invite you to type your questions in the chat, and we'll just open this up to discussion. So I think the first question is, what did you like the most and the least of the DBA journey? Anyone want to start with that?
The part that I enjoyed the most was the reading. I mean, this gives you, the freedom to read as much as you want. And actually, then that became the worst, because at one point my advisor says to me, Jim, yeah, and he said it with an expletive: stop reading. Yeah, you've just read so much. You've got to stop and focus. And the last thing I wanted to do was focus at that stage. I was having so much fun, learning so much about so many different things. But I would say that was actually the funnest part of it.
All right. Anyone else want to share their favorite part of the DBA?
Well, the least is the final details of the thesis. Those are the parts that never. It's like when you're building your house. It's like at the beginning it looks like you're going pretty fast, but the last details are endless. Mm. So I have a friend that always says that you don't finish a thesis, you're just quit it. I mean, it's like there's always so many details, and it looks like you never finish them, and all the comments and the feedbacks and there's a point where you just, I mean, dream on just finish the story. But then when you finish, at least I missed it. I mean, it was like just like living every day with all these authors, the papers and the research, and it was they became part of my life. But the last period of the thesis before submitting the document is pretty, I mean, intense.
Jenny, I would just add, I think, you know, relative to what Isabel and Jim just shared, I think for me, one of the most rewarding parts of the DBA journey in terms of getting to that point with the dissertation was that relative to colleagues who did a different type of program, and this bridges a little bit to Agnes's question, I think, about the dissertation topic. Starting the DBA and having, an area of focus where you knew you were interested in doing that research, doing all the reading that Jim talked about, and then making that contribution to the field. From the very beginning, really thinking about that and the way that GEM structures that process, it's both iterative and incremental. And so I know a lot of, at least my colleagues who have gone through other programs felt kind of very overwhelmed. I think, what Isabel just shared about the details at the end, that, those are just, they can be frustrating. They're, you're trying to respond to the external reviewers, to validate that contribution to the field. But I know a lot of my friends really struggle with kind of the feeling overwhelmed by just even starting that. And I think one of the nice things about the way GEM structures the DBA is that you can certainly refine, you don't, at least in my case, I didn't have, an absolutely clearly defined research question on day one, but I knew where I wanted to be. And I, as I did that reading that Jim talked about, was able to refine that question and then work toward that in a way where, by the time it was, was ready to, defend my dissertation, I felt really well. I just felt really well prepared, that I had something that I could feel really proud of, and that I knew represented, the time that I had invested in the program.
Yeah,
I think I'm going to quickly
question
read this question out loud so everyone can, if you don't mind, since I'm recording it, that way we'll get it.
Go ahead.
All right, and then we'll come back to it because this is a really good topic that comes up a lot, and it is a kind of a scary decision, isn't it? It shouldn't be. All right, so Agnes asks, I see a common point between all your dissertation topics. It deeply resonates with your career paths. How difficult was it to choose your dissertation topic? And was it something you knew before you joined the program? And then there's also a follow-up question. I'll read both because they're linked. I have the same concern. I do not really have a 100% defined topic to write a dissertation proposal for admission. How did you accomplish that? So now if you could jump in with your amazing advice. Thank you.
Yeah, I don't know if it'll be amazing, but I had different views. One of my colleagues at IMD had said to me, "Oh, Jim, listen, forget about what you want to do. Just choose a topic that is so narrow that nobody can argue with you about it. And, and that'll make it easy." But I knew that that's not what I wanted to do. And yes, I did have an interest in my topic. And it was also something that in some way was part of the teaching I'd been doing during that time. So it was just a question of narrowing it down. And that happened during the first 6 to 12 months of the DBA. I mean, the faculty we were working with and my advisor especially got me to bring it down to something that was manageable. And also the literature review helped with that process. So I think it's important that you have some sense of what you want to do, but don't worry about if it's perfect. At least that's my perspective.
And maybe to build on Jim and Ben and Isabel's comments, I would like to say, find a topic that you are passionate about, that fascinates you, a domain of activity that you are really very engaged in, and that you are really prepared to spend a lot of time on it. And with regard to your research question, this will be a journey to just formulate your research question. And as it has been previously said, the reading is going to be very important for you to build your question and your point of view. But the most important is find a domain where you are passionate about. That's what I really sense.
I agree with Frank. Definitely, you're going to spend like 4 or 5 years of your life just studying and going deeper and deeper in a topic. So definitely, you have to be passionate about it. If not, you're going to hate it at the end of the day. And in my case, at least, I knew that the only chance to do a doctorate was if the research topic was related to my job. So to make a positive synergy between my research topic and my work. because if not, it's going to be parallel words, and it's not going to be, I mean, possible for me at least. So when I started the DBA, I knew I wanted to do something related with angel investment, because I was leading a project of the Inter-American Development Bank at those days in Latin America related with angel investment. I had the idea that there was a lot of knowledge that needed to be added in this wall of knowledge. So I had like the feeling this was an interesting topic, but then in the once I started, all the seminars started, I discovered that there was another interesting thing that I had to, that was good to choose, that it was not only the topic of the research, but also the methodology. So I also, in my case, I chose the QCA, qualitative comparative analysis, and that methodology of research is also, I mean, an exercise, the way you do the methodology you use for your thesis, that is also the one I'm still using nowadays. So I changed the topic, but I'm still using the same methodology. So once you start the seminars and you start studying the different methodologies of research, also there's another thing you will have to choose that is going to just, I mean, show you the path where the research will go through, or your thesis at least is going to go through. So you don't have to, you don't must to have I mean, the exact idea of the topic, but at least the field of work. It's useful to have a clear idea which the field of work is going to be. And my advice is to do it with something related to your job.
Thank you. Any other advice that you guys might have on selecting your topic? I guess some of the things, we have our academic advisors on here also, and they can tell you that a lot of this evolves as you get started. You'll sort of hit the ground running with them as soon as as the program starts. But like Isabel said, you need to know what your career goals, what interests you, to sort of have the question itself has to be precise enough to know where you're going with it, but know that it will evolve. And how about the rest of you? How close was your initial idea and your final thesis, I guess?
Very close. Very, very close.
Somehow, somehow pretty close, yes.
Right.
For example, I developed an idea on intercultural awareness, and I had a friend who is an anthropologist who worked at WHO, who suggested that I submitted my thinking to the academic discipline. So that was the trigger to engage into the DBA. So it's discussing with peers and pushing your thoughts, and then preparing for, I would say, writing probably one of the very, very important chapter of your life. Because this is an immense journey for everyone.
Jeannie, I'm probably an outlier in this because my dissertation, what I went in with was very, very different from what I ended up researching and doing my dissertation on. So, but what I will say is, thinking about this question about, as you apply and putting together, your application, I think at first, for me at least, that seemed like a hurdle. And I think I just would encourage everybody that shouldn't be the hurdle you think it is. And there's, and I think, Ginny, you were just saying this, that, when you get into the program and you start it, there are just a terrific team of people there who really will champion and support you and are there to help you refine that question, really think through the question. Some people come in and have very, very well-defined questions. I saw that in my cohort. And I felt at first it was a little bit intimidating, but like any other thing, there's a distribution of where people are, and both in terms of where they are with their careers, where they are with their understanding of research, where they are with the type of question they're looking to ask. And so I wouldn't let that be a roadblock. I think you know, the good news about my outlier experience is that even though my topic going in was completely different than when I ended up focusing on, I was still incredibly successful in the program and graduated you know, in a timely fashion. So it's really just more about your ability to, you know, to commit yourself to, you know, put rigor into the work that you do, and, you know, and follow the methodology and the process, and, you know, listen to the champions who are there at GEM who help, you know, guide you along the way.
Perhaps I chip in just an
Yes,
idea.
please.
It's a shame that we can't hear Michelle because she's really knows a lot about the cohorts. I just wanted to say that the cohorts are very varies. So in terms of age, ranges from 30 to 60 years old, roughly speaking, all sorts of walks of life, academics, practitioners. And indeed, well, I don't think Ben is an outlier. I would say nearly half come out with another idea that they've come in with. So no outlier there. And so yeah, perhaps Michelle's coming back. So we went together to Los Angeles a few months ago to meet our 22 cohort. And it was just amazing to see how they help each other out. I just would like to mention that it's not only coming from the professors, but also between cohort members themselves. They help each other out and sometimes become good friends, as Isabel was mentioning. Wanted to say that.
Thanks. All right, I have a question here. It says, hello, Ben. I wanted to ask you why Grenoble and when you could have gone to a university in the US. I'm going to do a little plug here and let you know that we have over 150 alumni in the US with a presence for over 10 years now. But now I'll let Ben give his, give his say.
Sure. There were a few reasons why I chose Grenoble. One was, you know, people, a lot of organizations use the word innovative or innovation, and so I'm always a bit wary of that. But I think, you know, my experience with GEM is that, you know, they are very innovative, and the way that their program is structured and the way it worked for me, it just right away after talking to the people in the program, the administrators, the people who were there to support you, it was very clear to me that it was just really such a terrific fit. I will say a second reason was because of just the high level of accreditation that GEM holds. Yes, there are certainly a lot of prestigious universities in the US or in Europe, but you know, the opportunity to be at a university like GEM that is both accessible but also has that high quality and that reputation. The third piece was I really valued the ability to be in an international cohort of students. There were definitely other people from the United States in my cohort, but they were from all over. But the ability to work with people, you know, to engage with people in research who aren't just, you know, not necessarily homogenous, but in the U.S., but you know, it was just a wider, broader view of the world, and I think that really helped me inform, you know, my own work and my research, and again, just on a personal level, was just a really terrific, dynamic experience. I don't think I would have gotten in the United States.
Thank you. We really are proud of our very international cohort that come from every industry, every profile, and it does make it a lot of fun. Michelle was able to type her question, unfortunately, since she couldn't log on. So I'll just read that out loud and you can give your input. The doctorate is almost a pretext to offer oneself the incredible privilege of thinking deeply, not fast, but slow and deliberate thinking. And that is a necessary and therapeutic aspect of research, offering oneself the space to think and theorize. This is an incredibly important skill set to develop for life assurance, and alumni have really emphasized. Thank you, Michelle. That's really good. Anyone else want to add to that?
Yeah, maybe I can just build on what Michelle said and to comment on the question of topic. So again, having been through this journey myself, I can say that doing the DBA is such a humbling experience, because we all come with our professional experience. We've worked for decades. We've achieved a lot, and we come with a problem that we've identified, and we feel like we want to change the world with our topic almost. And then when we start reading, so everyone talked about the importance of reading, we noticed that we're kind of the small drop in a sea of knowledge, and just feeling that you're even if you're a small drop in the sea, that if you can make a tiny contribution to knowledge, but also to practice, because again, this is one of the advantages of the DBA as compared to the PhD, is bridging knowledge and practice as well. So just if you feel that you've achieved like this tiny bit of adding a little bit to knowledge and having even the smallest impact to your practice, that's a huge achievement, and there's a big feeling of satisfaction that comes out of this.
Thank you, Dima. The question here says, nowadays there are 2 locations, France and USA. Is there a real difference? Are there opportunities for networking and collaborating between cohorts? So we've actually reformatted our program a bit. A couple of years ago, we went from a 4-year to a 3-year, and adapted. A lot of this kind of came out of COVID, plus our 30 years of experience. And we found some ways to bring our 2 cohorts together more. So we have 2 full workshops here where we invite you to France. We found that our students wanted the flexibility in their careers and adaptations to their time zones, but it was really important to come to Grenoble and meet us and meet the faculty and meet each other. So we've been able to open up opportunities to network. So yes, we will be happy to welcome you here and for everyone to meet. Maybe would you like to give any more advice about career transitions from your DBA?
Yeah, I don't know if I did make a transition. It wasn't because of the DBA, and it was just, in a sense, coincidental that I had the DBA. Suddenly people put doctor in front of my name, and for some reason people give you more respect. I really don't know why, but and your consulting fees go up by 20%, somebody told me. I didn't do a check on that. But the thing is, I have a lot more confidence in what I do. You know, before I had that whole imposter syndrome. I'm standing in front of a group of 60 senior executives trying to teach them something and wondering, do I really know what I'm talking about? Whereas now, I know what I'm talking about. I've done the work in whatever topic. And I'd say it's more, I have more confidence in what I do than that it changed drastically my life or my career.
I will add something of what Jim was saying. I'm sure you know what are you talking about, and also you also know what you don't know to talk about. And I think this is the most important thing, because after the doctorate, I discovered that many times people is talking about things and arrive to conclusions pretty fast. And you know how the process should have been done. I mean, you know, when people arrives to results, and the process is not the what should have been. So I think it's the 2 sides. You know, we after the doctorate probably we know better what we're talking about, and we know better when we shouldn't talk about. I mean, it's like the 2 sides of the same coin.
Now, let me build on that, because you've highlighted something that again adds to the. It's much easier for me to say in a classroom, with very experienced people, I don't have an answer for that, but I think I do know how we can get an answer. And whereas before I probably would have tried to skim over it and just make up stuff. Now I'm fully able to say I don't know, and I know that this is okay. I'll try to start on this. I mean, I think it's clear from what I said earlier, I didn't go into this with there was a goal in mind. I wanted a big challenge. Yeah, I was very good at my job, but it wasn't it wasn't challenging me. The doctorate was a way to really challenge myself and go into an area where I could be scared because I didn't know how to do this. So that was my motivation, was to challenge myself. Maybe I could have done bungee jumping instead, but I wanted something intellectual.
In my case, just to add another perspective of what Jim was saying, in my case, as I told you, I started the doctorate because the university was asking me. So I definitely wanted the reward. I didn't. I wanted the end of the story because just to make happy my university, but the process. I discovered during the process that I loved the challenge. I became more of the Jim team during the process. I love the challenge. I discovered the reward is definitely the process, not the end of the story. And so of course, the reward opened me a lot of doors. That in another way I couldn't have been done. I mean, I couldn't have been here where I'm right now, but I definitely love the process, as Jim was saying.
To complement, just to say, this is the journey is really a flow experience where you use all your skills to try to achieve a very meaningful purpose for you. And every day is the first day. So it's really a very fascinating experience.
All right. Well, thank you. I think we're coming up on the hour. So if you have any concluding remarks or tips before we wrap up.
One thing that I would say to anybody who's in the process or getting started or thinking about it is you have to find a way to maintain momentum. And this is a long process. And so many things can come up that stop you or slow you down. When I think about how many people were with me that first night in the classroom in Grenoble, and then how few of them actually finished. And it was always stuff came up, or they stopped for 2 or 3 months because there was a work emergency or a family emergency, and they never got back on it. And I think the thing that kept me going is that my advisor, he actually suggested, give me a report once a month. That's all I ask. And these will serve as chapters when you eventually start writing your dissertation. And they sort of did, but the most important thing was that there was a requirement. I had to deliver something every month, and that just kept me going. So find your way to build momentum in your whole research process.
Yes, and I think that there's something we have been talking recently with Jeannie and Michelle, that, as Jim was saying, it's a long, it's a long process. A lot of things are going to happen in the middle, personal issues, professional issues, but keep going. It's something that, in my case, a lot of things happens in the 5 years that took me to finish the program, and but to have I never stopped doing something just to move forward, and that helped me to never stop. I probably if I stopped, I don't know if I would have had the strength to come back, but it was pretty smart to just, always reading, always trying to never stop the field work, and just keep moving.
All right, thank you. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for amazing alumni for sharing their experiences and these amazing tips. We'll have another session on June 13th if you'd like to meet some more alumni. And we also, if you want to know more about the application process and about the program, I'm happy to meet with you or put you in touch with any of our faculty to help answer your questions. So with that, we'll let everyone go for the day, but please don't hesitate to contact us with any questions. And thanks again to our alumni.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Act.